During a River Bay Board of Directors meeting on February 26, 2025, a Co-op City resident shared alarming incidents involving her two adult sons, both born in the U.S., who were stopped by men claiming to be ICE agents. These incidents occurred late at night while they were driving to or from work. The men, in unmarked cars and plain clothes, cited false claims of malfunctioning taillights to justify the stops. In the first incident, one son demonstrated that his taillights were functioning properly but was still required to provide identification. Despite showing his New York State driver's license, the agents demanded additional proof before allowing him to proceed. In the second incident, the other son was similarly stopped and accused of having a faulty taillight. He explained that he was a foreman for NYC Sanitation and was commuting to work on Randall's Island. Even after presenting his foreman's card, the agents insisted he call his superior to verify his identity. The mother indicated that her sons are not white, suggesting racial profiling as a factor in these encounters. The community was deeply disturbed by these accounts, prompting local organizations like the Coalition to Save Affordable Housing and the African American Association of Co-op City to organize a town hall meeting on March 29, 2025. The event aimed to educate residents on their constitutional rights, necessary documentation, and how to respond in such situations. The following is highlights of the event. These incidents reflect broader concerns about racial profiling and aggressive ICE tactics targeting communities of color nationwide.
So the first guy says, "Oh no, it's not, it's working. Show me your IDs." Wow. Middle of the night, he doesn't know who these people are, these guys, and he showed him ID, his license, New York State license, driver's license. "Oh, no, that's not sufficient. Show me another ID." And that was just outside Coop City. He's entering Coop City. And then the other son was going to work in Randall's Island, and he's crossing Triborough Bridge. And again, these guys in an unmarked car, guys get out in plain clothes, and he says, "Oh," they said, "Yeah, hold up or what, you know?" You can imagine what your thoughts are when you stop in the middle of the night with these guys. Oh, and they flashed a badge. It says, your trail lights are broken." "Oh, really? Oh, okay." He didn't dare to get out of the car because he heard when folks are stopped and these cops come there and they say your tail light's broken, and when you get out of the car, by coincidence, these guys are right next to the door. And if the guy gets out without realizing, he knocks this officer. And the officer accuses the driver of attacking him. So he knew better than that. He says, "Well, really, thank you for telling me. I'll have it checked first thing tomorrow morning." He says, "Let me see your ID." He says. So he shows him his ID. He says, "What are you doing here?" He says, "I'm going to work. I'm a foreman in Sanitation Department in New York City, and I have some job to do." Who can corroborate that's true? He says, "Well, I'll call my boss. He's right there on Randall's Island." He called his boss, and the boss showed up. He says, "Oh, yeah, that's a guy. He works for us. Let him go." But this is going on all over the country. In fact, there's a major article in the New York Times, "An immigrant neighborhood where Trump made inroads now fears ICE raids." It's terrible. Let me tell you something else. We, as you know, we invited everybody. We had ads in the paper, and some of the folks, I personally invited them. They're really fearful of showing up here because they fear ICE will show up here because, no, this is an issue that immigrants perhaps want to hear. So actually, and these are not, by the way, those who fear to come are not necessarily immigrants. They're actually born here, but they fear anything can happen. You heard a story where a Puerto Rican fella, veteran, was stopped and he was hauled off into New Jersey. It took him 2 days for the immigration officers to figure out, oh yeah, he's really a citizen. Well, by the time they found out, well, who the hell knows whether he could have been deported. So this is what we're facing here. Immigrant community, especially a community of color, because they all think that all you folks are Who knows? You snuck into this country and then you're liable to be caught and deported. So anyway, we called this meeting in order to give you, to share with you your rights, our constitutional rights. And so we invited the immigrant lawyer, and of course she'll tell you more about it, what she's doing, and entertain questions. Finally, the second item we want to do is get you agreement to send a message to our elected officials to tell our president, stop, get ice off our backs, stop harassing the community. So we'll discuss this after we finish with the question and answers, and we'll get your opinion and approval. All right, so let me introduce Miss Claudia Bernal, please.
Thank you so much for having me here. It's not only a pleasure, but an honor to be standing in front with you to talk, to discuss, to sort of open our eyes even wider to the reality that was just explained. My name is Claudia Bernal. I am an immigration attorney. My practice is here in New York City, and I myself am an immigrant. I came here many years ago with the goal of studying law, and little did I know I would stay, and I am one of us now. I have been through the maze of becoming a legal resident, and then after that, becoming a citizen. I am Peruvian. I was born and raised in Peru, so my English is not very good looking. I apologize for that. Y a mi gente latina, aquí estoy para servirlos. What Mr. Bernard explained now is happening every day and everywhere. Our community is unfortunately being targeted and profiled. So it's not unusual that I hear stories like these two fellows that were stopped for no reason, or individuals that are legally here, that are even green card holders and citizens who are afraid of going back home or traveling abroad because when they come back, they may face problems when they enter, and it's happening. So what I want is just to share with you some tips and some information that will make you more aware of your rights, of our rights, because we are all in this country for a good reason. And as citizens of this country, whether we have status or not, we have rights, and the Constitution protects us all. And if I may humbly say, the first right we have, the first one that is protected is our right to freedom, our right to exist, and our right to not be humiliated, as unfortunately we seem to be noticing more and more. We have the right to live in dignity, and that is something that nothing and nobody can take away from us. But when it comes to ICE, ICE is an enforcement agency. Let's see this as for what it is. ICE is an enforcement agency. ICE doesn't create policy. ICE doesn't set the rules. ICE comes and does what the boss says they have to do. So they are the very last instance after, for example, somebody has lost their case, fought it or not. Sometimes it's also because people forget that they have to go to court, or forget that they have to report with their deportation officers. They think that they're going to go unnoticed, or they forget or whatnot. So ICE comes in and they have to execute the laws as they were written. Now, our immigration code has been in existence since 1997. It's going to be, 30 years now of laws that are not really in sync with our times. But in any case, what we're seeing now are enforcement actions that are based on that law. This administration didn't create it, but this administration is enforcing them in a more severe, and if I may say, harsh way. When does ICE intervene? Again, when the person either has no status at all, and because this administration on January 20th decided who has to be deported right away, and this person may fall into that category, ICE will also intervene when the person has an outstanding warrant, not only from immigration, but from authorities, and they have the right to come and arrest, and when a person is accused or is suspect of threats to national security or the community at large. So these are the three main categories that will create an enforcement appropriate environment for them. But even if that were the case, even if we're talking about individuals who fall into these three priorities, ICE cannot do certain things, and we have certain rights. What are our rights? If a person, and please, I hope this information is shared broadly with our brothers and sisters, because I understand that there are people who are afraid of being here, and they should be here because this affects them directly. But if we can help them by letting them know what transpired here, we will help them tremendously as well. First of all, if there is an arrest, we have the absolute right to remain silent. This is a guarantee of our Constitution, the First Amendment, right of avoiding and not allowing self-incrimination. If we are being interviewed, we have the right to remain silent. Certainly, it doesn't mean that we have the right to oppose or not let the authority do their job. We cannot forcefully escape, run away, or avoid arrest, but we have the right to not say anything. If you are willing to volunteer any information about yourself, that can open a door for them to continue asking. So by doing that, you're waiving your right. So it is just politely staying silent in anything you want to say, or they want to say is, I want to exercise my Fifth Amendment to remain silent. Then if an arrest actually happens and you are taken, or the person is taken into custody, the second right they have is to seek the assistance of an attorney. This is a Sixth Amendment right of the Constitution. But in immigration, as opposed to, for example, criminal court or family court, the government doesn't have to provide us with free legal representation. In immigration court, you have to have your own attorney, but they have to give us the opportunity to call that attorney or to contact somebody who can contact the attorney. Okay, so that is that's something that they cannot take away from us. I guess what the proper way to do it is just once we have that right to make a phone call, immediately communicate with our family or our attorney if it's possible, so the attorney can work on trying to get you or that person out on bond. And finally, if while waiting for the attorney to do their job, we have the right to be heard, also protected by the Sixth Amendment. We have the right to be heard by a judge, by an immigration judge. Because ultimately, unless the person is an enforcement priority, and I will explain who is an enforcement priority next, unless a person is not an enforcement priority, we can fight our cases in court. And the immigration law has remedies, has opportunities that have been created by the law, sometimes by executive orders or by laws that didn't become necessarily part of the INA, but they're existing and they are being respected, that will give us chances. So it's not everything, it's not that everything is lost, but being that ICE is acting so swiftly and so quickly, because we see this person was arrested 2 days ago and 3 days later he's in El Salvador without due process. Certainly this is all already being litigated, and there's going to be certainly I think it's going to end up in the Supreme Court because it's such a case. Unless that is the case, that is the situation, there are remedies, but we have to be prepared. Back again to who is an enforcement priority. For this administration, there are three groups of people who are an enforcement priority. The first one is individuals who have committed serious crimes and that are considered a threat to public safety or national security. Public safety in the sense, and it's not only the severity of the crime, but it's also the consistency or the number of incidents. Sometimes we think one misdemeanor can be let go, but 2 or 3 that in the aggregate can be part of this criteria that causes a person to be an enforcement priority. People with criminal backgrounds. The second group is composed of individuals who have been in the United States for less than 2 years. And we're talking about people who enter the US most of the time and mostly through the border, through the southern border, as of May of 2023. These individuals are definitely considered and they qualify in ICE's opinion for an expedited removal. And third, but last but not least, those who have been previously deported, previously ordered deported by a judge, and that A, did not leave the country after an order of deportation, or B, left the country and came back. There are those situations too. Sometimes people go home, are sent home, but then a month later, 6 months later, or a year later, they're back. So these 3 categories are enforcement priorities. Unfortunately, along with those 3, what we see the most are what we call collateral arrests. Who are they? The rest of the world. The rest of African Americans, Hispanics, and every other person who happens to be here for more than 2 years, has no criminal record, has never been deported, but is undocumented. So we're talking about those dads, those moms who are here for 10 years, they have American children, they have a good record, they have been paying taxes, they're hardworking people, but unfortunately did not do anything or could not do anything to legalize themselves. So they can be taken into custody with the other group of people who have to be in custody because they are enforcement priorities. So even whether you are an enforcement priority or not, your rights are the same. You have to be heard, you need to be heard, you need to remain silent. What applies to everybody in this kind of circumstances and what we usually advise is to have a plan, to have a backup plan, to have something set up in the family to protect your rights and protect your family as well. So if we are talking, what we talk about most of the time refers to, for example, children. If we're talking about parents, undocumented parents, who have minors, who have children in the United States, and God forbid, they are deported. These children, if there is nobody who can take care of them and protect them and take custody over those kids, they can enter into the system. And once the kids enter in the system, we know it's very hard to get them out. It's extremely hard. Once you let the government into your house, that's it. You can't get them out, unfortunately. So one way to avoid it is if those parents issue or, they write and they notarize what is called a power of attorney. A power of attorney granting somebody that they truly trust to watch after their kids, after their medical needs, their educational needs, and even if needed, make the proper coordinations for them to be reunited with their parents when the time comes. So if there is this power of attorney, what happens is the grantor, the parent, will give the agent that document, and the agent keeps it for themselves, and usually they inform the school. They don't need to give the school a copy of the power, but they inform the school, if anything happens, this person will take care of my children. So the school doesn't have to call Child Protective Services, but call the agent. And we avoid that hard scenario of parents being separated and kids being in the system. Same thing happens if this person who is being arrested and it's about to be deported has any property, bank accounts, a home, even pets, because I have had to do power of attorney for pets. Believe it or not, some people don't have children, they love their pets as if they were. So they do grant that authorization and give that task to somebody to take care of. So the power of attorney is something important, it's something useful, and it's, I would say, you should think about it as if it were an insurance, right? It's better to have it and not need it than the other way around. The other important aspect of being prepared is certainly have the contact information of your immigration attorney or the immigration attorney that will be representing you, so that this attorney can put together a bond packet if it is possible. Sometimes it is not, because like I said, these people are immediately deportable and there's very little we can do unless there are certain circumstances, such as an expressed fear of return for something that happened back home or something similar. But most of the time, when it is expedited removal, it's almost, it's very little what an immigration attorney can do, and I say it humbly, because that's what we have been seeing. But having the information and having the phone number of that immigration attorney, it is important too, because that attorney will work on putting together the bond package. And why is it important that it be an attorney? Because we are liable both to the client and to the courts. If we have that friend who knows a friend who knows a friend who is a notary public, and they want to help us, it's very little what they can do, because these individuals cannot litigate in court. Attorneys do. So let's have this difference very clear for our own benefit. Last but not least, we have to make decisions, right? Make tough decisions as to what will be the next step, who will be taking care of this, who will be doing that. These are conversations that I know, because I have guided and I have accompanied families in these situations to have them, but they are necessary, because we don't know, and it is not a matter of if, but unfortunately it's a matter of when it happens. So we want to be prepared. We want to be prepared. The immigration system is complex, and it's more complex now that there is so much enforcement and so many obstacles everywhere we go. But there is still hope, and there is a way, because there is a will, there is always a way. We just have to do it right. And there might be people who don't know, for example, that they have rights, that they have ways to legalize, or even if they don't know it, they might be even citizens. It happened to me just a month ago. Somebody came for a consultation thinking that was completely undocumented. It turns out his grandmother had become a citizen in the early 1900s, or the early 20th century. Then the mom did, so he could derive the citizenship. And so right now we're getting him a certificate of citizenship. A person who came thinking he had nothing and just came for a power of attorney. So ask, inquire, investigate, go seek legal advice from from individuals who know and who are liable, both to you and to the courts and to the system. Because, like I said, we can know the friend who knows the friends who knows the notary public, but that is usually not beneficial when we are dealing with circumstances as difficult as we are dealing right now. So may I just speak 2 words in Spanish for my Hispanic community? Okay. Thank you so much. Lo que les quiero decir es que estamos viviendo momentos difíciles y nuestra comunidad está siendo objeto de mucha discriminación, perjuicio y prejuicio, pero eso no quiere decir que tengamos que agachar la cabeza y que dejemos que se abuse de nosotros. Hemos venido a este país a construir y a contribuir. Entonces tenemos que defendernos y tenemos que prepararnos. Porque la pregunta no es si es que va a suceder, sino cuándo puede suceder y cuándo nos puede suceder a nosotros. Por favor, busquen ayuda legal calificada, porque a veces por estar guardando los chavitos ahí en el bolsillo, o porque eso resulta siendo muy complicado, muy lejos o muy difícil, recibimos la ayuda inapropiada y al final terminamos enfrentando situaciones que no tendríamos por qué haber enfrentado en el primer lugar. The law has not changed. Again, this administration has not created law. Unfortunately, it has taken away opportunities that were available yet. Yes, that is true, but there are ways, and we are here to fight the good fight. Thank you.
Questions from the audience here, but the first question I have of you is, some were advised that they carry passport with them. Is that something that you would advise them to do, or that's not really necessary? I mean, they didn't, as I indicated, they didn't recognize New York State license, a driver's license, and they accuse them, oh, you made this up or something like that. It's a fake. Yes, what do you suggest?
Okay, thank you. That is a very important question. For those who are not born here, I advise not to carry your home country's passport. Simple as that. Not to carry. Not to carry. Carry with you a driver's license that is issued by the state. Let them do their job. Because if we carry our passport, we're making it easy, right? We're making it, oh, so you're from Bolivia, okay, there's your ticket. Oh, you're from, East Africa, there's your ticket. No, we don't need to, we don't want to facilitate that. But certainly, I strongly advise against bringing any counterfeit or document that is not legitimate and that is not issued by an official government. What can work as a form of ID? For those who don't have a green card, the work authorization that comes with every process that we start, because when you apply for a benefit, you can apply for a work permit. The receipts of that process, and maybe a letter from the attorney explaining what is your situation, but with very limited information. I don't make ICE's life easier. So I just tell them, I'm their attorney, if you're so kind, please call me. Green card holders, on the other hand, they have to carry their green card with them, it's the law. Green card holders must carry their green cards at all times. Citizens really do not need to carry their passport. They do not. Maybe if you feel comfortable, take a picture of it and show it. But nothing else. Nothing else.
So, yeah, I'm going Michelle, you want to answer one?
Yeah. The enhanced
The real ID.
real ID and enhanced ID. I see a lot of our seniors, running to get this, and we're trying to make it accessible. JASA's having trips to the DMV. What should they make sure they have this? What is the ruling on that?
Of course. So the real ID, the enhanced ID, is based on the Real ID Act of 2005. And it is not too different from a regular driver's license, but for the fact that it is the only document that airlines will accept and the TSA will accept if you want to travel. It's mostly to pass through security and some entities and some places that do require an enhanced identification document. Is it extremely necessary? Not really, in my opinion. Is it useful? Definitely. If you want to travel, you want to get on a plane, you will need to show a real ID. Otherwise, you can't. You cannot get on a plane as of May of this year.
Wait, the enhanced ID and real ID is the same thing? It's the same thing. It's got the gold on it.
The gold, the little star, yes.
Okay. Reggie, go ahead, Reggie.
I want to talk later, but I'll respond to that. The United States passport, if you are a citizen of America, and they now issue a passport card, you can get on a plane, right? You don't need the real ID if you have a passport, because you can get out of the country with a passport.
Correct. But that passport card
Speak into
is
the mic, please.
correct. It's about the passport card instead of the passport. Can it be used as an ID? The answer is yes. But that passport card only allows you to come and go from Mexico and Canada. Those are the only two destinations. For any other country outside of the continent, you have to have an actual passport.
But internally,
But internally, yes, you can
Okay.
use the passport. Yes, the passport.
What about state?
Hold on, let me recommend.
We're
Yes, this
We're
lady.
gonna have to have
Hold on.
people come up to the.
No,
I can't hear.
it's too
People
much.
in the
Go
back
ahead,
cannot hear
please,
Bernie.
please, I'll repeat the question.
I just wanted to know, if I witness somebody being abducted by ICE, is there anything I can do as a bystander?
Please repeat that.
If somebody sees somebody being abducted by ICE, is there anything you can do as a bystander? All you can do is document it. That's it. Because if you intervene, you can be charged with obstruction of justice, and you don't want that.
Yes, this lady.
I see with the Fourth, Fifth, and Sixth Amendment.
Please speak up so I can hear you.
With the Fourth, Fifth, and Sixth Amendment is being violated all the time with Trump. He's a fibber in the White House. They should go after impeachment or something else. It has to be frightening for an immigrant to go in their prison. They can go to Guantanamo Bay, any place you don't know. You can't deal with that. You don't have the manpower to deal with that. How many Ukrainians have you dealt with immigration? Do you have problems with Ukrainian from Russia?
Okay.
The question being, with the Fourth, Fifth, and Sixth Amendment being violated by this administration, and we don't have the manpower to deal with it, the question that the lady asked was, have I dealt with any Ukrainians who are being targeted right now? Yes, because Ukraine had been also the beneficiary of humanitarian parole by the Biden administration. And now this group, this right, this protection is being taken away. So what I'm doing is just preparing them. Some of them do have, and it's widely known, they have, they have expressed fear of return because of the war situation. Some of them are eligible to apply for TPS. So what we're doing is, what can I do for you? And those who have nothing, all I can do is be honest with them and tell them, look, this is what you have, this is what's happening right now, you have to make the right decision.
Just a quick aside,
Just a minute.
there's a Russian woman 2 days ago, a researcher who has been detained, and she's being detained, and all she did was speak out against Putin about the war, Russian, and she's now being detained and possibly deported, and you know what they do to people who speak out against Putin in Russia. They tend to take flights out of windows.
Correct. Unfortunately, our First Amendment right is also being violated. We're talking about this Russian person. Then a few days ago, there was somebody who was arrested, and his case is being, followed everywhere for being a pro-Palestinian, I think, advocate. And so, yes, this is not only the Fourth, Fifth, and Sixth; it's the First Amendment. But again, there are the courts, and the courts will have to deal with it. We can't do anything.
Yes, that lady, yes?
You were talking about paying taxes. Now, I know quite a few non-citizens, mostly Mexican, that are in America for like 10, 15 years, have children that go to school, and they're citizens, but they pay taxes, and some of them do have applications with the government for green card, never got it, and a lot of them don't. So what is their rights any different if they pay taxes or not?
The question is about whether undocumented immigrants should be paying taxes or not, correct?
No,
Or
If their rights
does it
are
make a
different.
difference?
yes, if it makes a difference to pay taxes or not. We have heard recently that there is a possibility that the IRS will provide ICE with information about undocumented immigrants. If I may humbly, again, this is my personal opinion, I think it is the worst idea ever, and I'll tell you why. Day in, day out, I represent people who are in deportation proceedings, people who are in court fighting for the right to stay. And I also represent people who are seeking green cards, opportunities, waivers, and whatnot. every person, whether it is before a judge or before the administrative offices of USCIS, every person is asked, have you paid taxes or not? And why? Because paying taxes, it's not only the right thing to do, the moral thing to do, to give back to this country that gave us so much, but it's also a proof of good moral character. If I am living off of the government, and on top of that, I am asking for a status, for a legal status, how can, this is contradicting, this is not right. I shouldn't be seeking this for free. But if I'm asking for an opportunity to stay, and I am showing them, look, even though I am undocumented, and even though I don't have a social security number, but I have an ITIN number, which is an individual taxpayer identification number only for taxes, and I've been paying this since I came 20 years ago, you can see that I'm not a freeloader, and I'm not here to take advantage of anything. So if this cooperation materializes, I think it's going to deter immigrants from doing the right thing. And not only this is wrong, but it's economically suicidal. Because you have no idea how much undocumented immigrants contribute to the economy by paying their taxes, by doing the jobs that some others don't do. So I still believe that they should continue to pay taxes, to file taxes, because in the past there were several attempts of passing amnesties and laws and opportunities that had to go through a process whereby the person applying needed to prove that they pay taxes for X amount of time. But we'll see what happens with the IRS.
But even if it's like 10, 15 years, the application has never been addressed, and what if they never applied? Would it make a difference?
If they never apply, then it's time that they seek an opportunity and they go after that application and they try it. Because the fact that they don't apply, that's the responsibility. They have to go after what they believe. Now, if it hasn't been dealt with for such a long time, then there is something missing there. An application can go unnoticed, and it's true. There are right now, I can tell you, about 3 million cases that are backlogged in the immigration courts. I was telling Aisha, I have hearings scheduled for 2028. 2028. That's how far back they are. And USCIS is experiencing the same delay. So if there is a delay, there has to be something done, because probably that file is sitting somewhere.
There's economic policy, it's a national policy institute, and they've calculated that immigrants have contributed $75 billion to a payroll tax, and you know what? They can't even get any benefits from it. Unfortunately, because they don't dare retire, try to get Social Security because they're undocumented. But so, anybody says that they're not contributing, absolutely they contribute. All right, that lady in the back, yes.
Yeah, so I work in the hospital where I find patients for emergency Medicaid, and some of them comes underneath the PRUCOL. So, PRUCOL, am I saying correctly? PRUCOL. It's a acronym. Have you ever heard of it?
No, is it a program? Is it
They use it, some people thinking that they have protection underneath it based on immigration.
Okay, but this program is it for medical benefits? Is it for?
Well, what happens is that it has something to do with their status. If they are trying to, they claim it helps them to secure them from being classed in the undocumented category, which is still considered to be, but it gives them, they have to present something from a judge, a letter from a judge. So some people thinking that they're protected underneath that, but from what we've been told, they are not. So I just was asking, like, can you clarify that part?
Okay, I know what you're talking about now. I'm sorry, I had to Google it. Well, let's start with that. It doesn't give them any status.
That's what they're thinking, and we're telling them
No. Okay, there is a program called PRUCOL, and PRUCOL stands for Permanently Residing Under Color of Law. And what it does is, it's a category created by the courts to give these people eligible, make them eligible for certain public benefits. But it doesn't give them status. The only proof that they have status is either a decision by an immigration judge, like for example, the grant of asylum, a final decision, or a decision by an administrative officer after reviewing a case. What happens with these people is that is just proof that they are under process. They are seeking something, but they don't have a definite status.
But they're thinking that they are trying to say to them, no, not until they have something finalized and you have the legal document.
And you are correct, but maybe the state thinks that that PRUCOL document is enough for certain benefits. And that's where the confusion comes. Because for an immigrant, when you start receiving benefits, automatically, unfortunately, there comes the confusion. Oh, okay, I have status, I have papers. And many times they come to me, but I have papers. And when they show me papers, it's literally paper that says your case is pending. That is not real papers. It's just a proof that your case is pending. So yes, you are right. They don't have status. Only a judge or an administrative officer, and that is it.
Just a clarification.
That out there in case anyone knows anybody or have a family member that getting any kind of benefit underneath that protocol.
What it stands for is permanent residence under color of law. And it allows for immigrants to apply for certain benefits that would be somewhat more than a green card would allow for. That's all it is. It just allows them to apply for additional benefits. It doesn't give them any standing as citizenship goes.
No, I know that, but they are thinking that.
I understand there's
Yes, I
confusion.
just want to put that out.
I understand
Yes,
there's confusion, but I just want to say what it is, that's all.
Oh, no.
Okay,
All
that
right.
gentleman in the back?
The resources that you're currently speaking to immigration law, but what are the hard copy of the resources that we can refer to so that if we would like to share with persons in need or to review it ourselves?
Of course.
We have a-
Thank you so much. The ones that I go to for the most part are the publications from ILRC, the Immigrant Law Coalition, and they have a lot of information online. They have a lot of information online, and what we need to look for is material about know your rights. Know your rights, and we call them the KYR material. It is available on, like I said, online, and it's the National Immigration Justice Center. That's one. That's my favorite actually, because they also do a lot of community events and a lot of practice pointers for us immigration lawyers. But there is everything, even just a simple Google search, Know Your Rights Immigration, that will give us an idea, and they're in every language.
They can't enter the property.
No.
So what is the resource? So how can they get into their building and go up to an apartment?
They have to have a warrant,
I
a
can,
judicial warrant.
but unfortunately, they can also ask permission from the landlord or from the employer. And if the employer or the landlord gives them access, they go in. Because warrant is it's a right, but they can also act on consent.
So I'm gonna follow this up with the management and question them whether we do permit officers of ICE officers to enter our building, never mind going to their apartment. Because I would understand there's certain thing as a sanctuary, right? Sanctuary. Yes, so the corporation, we have to learn whether we do have that kind of a understanding here. So we'll inquire with them and then we'll provide you with an answer. We'll look forward to our article in the Coop City Times. Yes, hold on, excuse me.
It's supposed to be a state.
Sanctuary city.
City, but evidently there's also buildings too, they just can't enter. Yes, Olivia?
Well, I have a question regarding a parent who has a child who's gonna reach the age of 18. And this child is telling the parent that because he can join the army or the navy, now the parents are gonna have a right to become citizens or become legally in the country.
The question is, we have a United States citizen who's about to turn 18 and wants to join the army. Can this child and this US citizen give their parents legal status? As of today, yes, that is true. There is a program that thankfully yet has not been canceled by the government. It's called military parole in place. Military parole in place, and it is possible. Unfortunately, this administration has stopped adjudicating those. I do those most of the time. I really love doing those cases because it's just, again, giving back to the country. But it goes through a process whereby it is necessary to demonstrate that the citizen, that the U.S. citizen is in fact serving, or at least in basic training, and that the parents have no problems, no prior entries, no prior deportations, no issues that will prevent them. But yes, there is a program that allows the parents, spouses, and children of personnel in active service, in reserve, or even veterans. Yeah.
Okay. To what you're saying, don't they have to show proof that they legally entered the country?
No, they do not.
That's why I wanted
It
to
is specifically designed for parents or for individuals who did not enter the country legally.
Okay, we have, yes, did you have a question? Did you have a hand up? No. Okay, yes.
Piggyback on the other question, does immigration have a right to go into churches?
No, the same principle applies to any other public space. There needs to be a warrant. With churches, there's even a lawsuit claiming that any entry will violate our right, our First Amendment right. So it's been litigated, and as to my knowledge, there hasn't been any attempt of ICE to enter temples, churches, or any religious places.
Okay,
Is he going to speak?
all right, Andrea, this is the last question because our speaker has another appointment and she needs to leave, so. Yes, Andrea.
My question, the term illegal and undocumented is being bounced back and forth. And you just mentioned that a parent of someone serving in the armed forces doesn't have to come into the country legally. Does illegally mean that they came in without a visa, without any access to the country, or they came in with a visa and that expired? Because there's the term undocumented and illegal, and I don't consider anybody illegal, but companies go all around the world, no people be able to go all around. That's my perspective. But because the term keeps being banted back and forth, illegal and undocumented, what is the term for what?
Okay. The term under the INA is undocumented, and I agree with you. I don't use the term illegal. I don't think anybody's illegal because nobody commits a crime by entering the country, and for what it's worth, violations of administrative law are, of the INA, of the immigration laws, are administrative violations, they are not crimes. So, but in practical terms, calling somebody illegal or calling somebody undocumented has the same effect. We're talking about people who either entered without permission, through the borders, through the ports, through the tunnels, however they entered, and were not inspected and admitted by the Attorney General. That's what the law says. Without inspection or admission or parole by the Attorney General. And also we're talking about people who came here legally with a visa, either as a tourist, or a student, or as a worker, and that visa expired, and we stayed past the time that we were authorized. After that time, we do become undocumented because the terms of the visa were violated, so it doesn't have any more validity. So in practical terms, they do mean the same, but I agree with you. There is no need to call anybody illegal. And about the parole in place that I just answered,
How long would it take if the child decides to do this? Because I know someone that.
it will take, it's about 1.5 to 2 years for the parole to be granted, because that's the first step of 3 steps that the family will need to take. It's a long process. And about that, it only benefits undocumented parents, spouses, or children of members of the military, whether they are in active service, reserve, or veterans. Only undocumented. Those individuals who came with a visa and stayed are not eligible for this program.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it's very important. It clarified a lot of, I'm sure it clarified a lot of questions we had and insecurity. And we hope to have you back again sometime. I'm sure others have come up with additional questions and reservations. So we hope to see you back again, and thank you again. Now, I want to propose this, that if we can get some volunteers to come sign up and be a committee that continues this kind of work, bringing speakers and meetings and try to clarify things and even pursue it further where people have some serious questions that we haven't been able to answer. And the other thing is this. I want you folks to consider perhaps that we call upon our elected officials, unfortunately I see they're not here, to pursue the ban that ICE stop terrorizing our communities, not only here, but across the country. Because as I indicated before when I began this meeting, a number of folks who want to come here are terrified to come here because they fear this is an invitation for ICE to come here and snatch them. And, we have a principal of a school, she told us that she had students in the South Bronx, parents are reluctant to bring their children there. So she advised them to come in the back door. Well, I know that'll help them relief. But anyway, that is what's happening here in our own city, our own community. So, do we hear a motion to approve?
I'd like to add some information from NYPD.
Okay, good. But since I on this topic, 2 things I want to ask you. Do you agree as a body that we send a message to our elected officials that they direct Trump to stop ICE from terrorizing our communities? Aye. Okay, we'll do that. Name of this group here. And the second thing is, can we have some volunteers who work with me in trying to build an organization here so we can continue this work that we began today? Anybody wants to?
Can we let
Yes,
Bob
we do that, yes.
Bernie,
What?
let Bob speak first,
Oh,
and then the body can make.
Absolutely. Okay, Bob?
Thank you. It's great to see so many people here. First off, let me make it very clear, I do not work for the city, I am not with NYPD. I am the president of the 45th Precinct, and I'm going to stress the next word, Community Council. The 45th Precinct Community Council, every precinct has a community council. We were there for the community. A lot of times people walk into the precinct and they don't really get the kind of response they should be getting. Once a month, we have a community council meeting where you get to address the commanding officer of the precinct, as well as several other officers, and we're really there for the community to get the responses they should be getting. So with that said, the reason I'm here today is because Aisha asked if we could have somebody from NYPD. NYPD is taking a hands-off policy, okay? If somebody is stopped by NYPD, they will never ask your immigration status. This is information I had to basically reach out to NYPD and get, and I wanted to make sure that everybody was aware. You know, so often, our first generation immigrants, whether they're legal or illegal, seem to be afraid to call the police when they need help. And we all need help at some time or another. We have to make it very clear to everybody that NYPD is not immigration. They will not inform immigration of your status. They will never ask your status. All right? If NYPD is informed of a warrant by immigration, they will send it up to their operations control and they'll decide what to do. That's only going to happen in extreme cases. It's very important that people understand. When I was a kid, we used to say, the policeman is your friend. And you know what? It really is. They're there to help you. You know, 90% of what they do is service work, not arresting work. You know, so it's so important that people understand they will never ask your immigration status. Whether you're being arrested, whether you call for help, whatever the situation may be, NYPD is not going to enforce anything with immigration. They will not aid immigration on any raids that they want to set up. They will stay totally separate. If the police are called because immigration wants to enter a building, they will confirm that they have a judicial warrant or they will not let them in. So NYPD, you know, somebody mentioned we're a sanctuary city. NYPD is still on your side, all right? The city of New York is still that type of status. I know there's been all sorts of questions with the mayor, with issues that have been coming up, but NYPD, that's their policy right now. I don't think it's going to change anytime soon, but people need to know that it's still okay to call the police for help. You know, too many people are afraid. They're afraid to say anything when they see something, you know, and we really need to work with each other as much as possible. So we want to keep our street.
Finally, Coop City shareholder Reggie Mabry added that he is concerned about Black, Latino and Arabic U.S. citizens being harassed as a priority. He urged that it is important for you to have a camera in your car in these troubling times for these types of incidents. He also said that you should document the date, time, place if you are harassed by ICE. Mabry urges you to make a formal complaint with the Office of the Attorney General, Tish James, and document the issue for later class action suits. NYC's human rights law is the strongest in the nation. If you feel the stop was but for discrimination, complain to the AG office about discrimination.